Hi there. I'm glad to welcome you to my channel, World of Stories. I have a lot of interesting life stories that I want to share with you. Enjoy listening.
That morning, the alarm clock was particularly insistent. It seemed like Kate would just turn it off, and it would start ringing again. How unwilling she was to get up. Especially from the warm embrace of her beloved husband. Suddenly, through her sleepiness, Kate remembered. Yesterday, she had purposely set the alarm earlier and with a 5-minute interval. She wanted to surprise Steve with pancakes in the morning. He really loved them, but they took quite some time to make. Kate opened her eyes and glanced at the time. She still had enough time, and soon the apartment would be filled with enchanting aromas. What smells so delicious? Steve peeked into the kitchen. Your favorite pancakes? Kate laughed. Come on, sleepyhead, let's go to the bathroom and then to the table, or we'll be late for work. Steve playfully teased her and disappeared from the kitchen. Kate finished cooking and set the table. In the meantime, she thought about her family. She and Steve had met during their college years. She was a future economist, and he was a programmer. It could be said that it was love at first sight. After completing their studies, they got married, even though they didn't have their own place. They decided that renting would be enough for now. Money didn't come pouring in for them. Steve was from a small town, and his parents were still there, elderly and living modestly. Kate only had her mother. Of course, they could have lived with her in a 3-room apartment in the city center, which her mother inherited after her husband's death, Kate's father. Clearly, there would have been enough space for the young couple, but Kate and Steve decided to live separately. Although her mother was disappointed, she accepted her daughter's choice with her son-in-law. That was the right decision. Let them start their married life independently. As fate would have it, Kate and Steve both got jobs in the same company. She worked in accounting, and he worked in the computer department. They were paid decently in this advertising firm. But life was so expensive. In the 3 years they had lived together, they couldn't manage to save enough for a down payment on a mortgage. So, they continued to squeeze themselves into the same rented 2-bedroom apartment. One day, Steve suggested to Kate that they move in with her mother. It would be more economical, he said. But Kate was against it. 2 mistresses in one kitchen wouldn't get along, even if they were mother and daughter. Besides, they had almost saved enough for the down payment to apply for a mortgage. Steve agreed with her. No, everything was fine with them. Only one problem bothered Kate. And it had truly become a problem for her. She couldn't get pregnant no matter what. She really wanted a baby already. Steve took a more relaxed approach to this matter. It's just not the right time yet, he would say. So, when Kate started actively visiting family planning clinics a year ago, Steve just shook his head. But where would they fit a child right now? Although Kate wanted it so badly. Steve distracted her from her sad thoughts as he returned from the bathroom. He kissed his wife and smiled. How are our pancakes doing? And he eagerly devoured them, praising their taste. Meanwhile, Kate sipped her coffee thoughtfully. Steve. I need to go to the clinic right after lunch today, she said. Again. Steve sighed. Kate, we've talked about this so many times. Let's just live our lives for now. We'll buy an apartment, and then we can deal with this problem. But what if I'm infertile? The doctors keep giving contradictory opinions, she replied. They're just trying to take your money, Steve responded, frustrated. Not that much. Come with me today. Take the day off work. Besides, the doctor invited you, she suggested. Do you think the problem is with me? Steve looked at his wife reproachfully. Darling, I told you. When I was in my 3rd year, Helen got pregnant from me and had an abortion. Yes, I remember that, but let's get checked together anyway, she insisted. I won't. Especially today, they won't let me go. We need to stop a new program, Steve explained. Steve thanked Kate for the delicious breakfast and hurried out of the kitchen to get ready for work. She quickly rinsed the dishes as well. Kate felt disappointed that her husband took their shared problem so lightly. But what could she do? She sighed, took off her apron, and rushed to get dressed for work. Soon, they were driving in their old car, not discussing trivial matters, as if a very important issue hadn't arisen that morning. When they arrived at the office, Steve suddenly took her hand in his. "Sweetheart, don't be angry with me for our morning conversation. I understand how important this is for you. And for me too. I will definitely go with you to the clinic, just not today. I really have a lot of work," he said. Then next time, she smiled. However, Kate still went to the clinic. The doctor didn't tell her anything new. He prescribed some vitamins and advised her to bring her husband. Kate happily informed him that Steve was almost ready. "That's great. I'll be waiting for you at the appointment," the doctor replied and scheduled their visit in 2 weeks. First thing at work, Kate decided to stop by Steve's office and tell him about the doctor's visit. In the corridor, she bumped into Michael, who shared an office with her husband. "Is Steve here?" she greeted him warmly. "Yes," Michael replied, somewhat flustered. "Well, he's busy right now." "That's okay. I won't stay long," Kate nodded in response and continued clicking her heels down the hallway. Michael stood there, watching her go. Then, realizing he had left his phone in the office, he put his hand in his pocket, only to realize that he had left it behind. Meanwhile, Kate had already opened the door. She immediately spotted Steve. He was standing by the window, with Jessica, the boss's secretary, next to him. At first, Kate thought she was having a bad dream. No, it can't be. But it was real. Steve and Jessica were kissing and didn't even notice at first who had entered the room. Then, Steve turned and saw Kate. He blushed, then paled. He mumbled something like, "Oh, you're already back?" Tears welled up in Kate's eyes. Her lips trembled. She didn't have the strength to confront them. She abruptly turned around and rushed out of the office. Steve tried to chase after her but was immediately stopped by Jessica. "Darling. That's good. Now she knows everything." "I'm tired of hiding," Kate heard Jessica's thin, unpleasant voice. Steve stayed with the secretary. And Kate ran down the hallway. In her head, Jessica's words echoed. "I'm tired of hiding, I'm tired of hiding." Does that mean they've been going on for some time? And she didn't see or feel anything, Kate wondered as she passed Michael, who stood with a sorrowful expression on his face. It was clear that he felt sorry for the woman. Steve was such a fool. How could he betray the beautiful Kate for this skinny little Jessica? Yes, Michael had known everything for a long time and had told his friend that it wouldn't end well. But Steve had brushed it off, and now it had happened. In her accounting department, Kate let her tears flow freely. Samantha and Brenda, her sympathetic colleagues, remained silent. They knew everything too. Yes, the whole office was aware. Kate had been blissfully unaware. No one had dared to open her eyes. Kate understood it all from their expressions. "Girls, did you all know?" Kate asked, wiping her tears. "We all knew," Samantha replied softly. "Oh God. What a horror." Kate sobbed. Then she grabbed her bag and ran home. She couldn't bear to stay at work anymore. Being here, where everyone whispered behind her back, was unbearable. She crossed paths with Steve on the staircase. "Kate, let's talk," he said calmly. "No hysterics or tears, like adults." "I don't want to talk to you about anything," Kate replied, slowly choosing her words. "You're a scoundrel." The next moment, she approached him closely, slapped him across the face, and ran down the stairs. Steve didn't chase after her again. "Well, to hell with you," he muttered through his teeth and headed back to his office to work. Steve was confident that by the evening, Kate would calm down, and they would have a relatively peaceful conversation at home. In principle, he had been planning to start that conversation for a while, but he lacked the courage. He had been seeing Jessica for about a year. Their encounters were rare but passionate. With Jessica, Steve felt like he was soaring. He was her lion, Hercules, Apollo. And with Kate, just mundane life. And then there was her persistent desire to have a child. Why would he want a child with Kate when Jessica was there? She was so tender and ethereal, and she had a significant advantage: her uncle was their boss, which was crucial for the career-driven Steve. That evening, as he returned home, he made up his mind. He would suggest to Kate that they file for divorce. She could move in with her mother and live happily there. And he would stay in the apartment with Jessica. The girl didn't have her own place yet, but her uncle would help them. Steve was counting on a raise in salary, at least. But that would happen after he married Jessica. However, Kate wasn't home, and some of her things were missing as well. She moved out, Steve concluded, sighing with relief. He thought about calling Ms. Gloria, Kate's mother, but decided not to bother the elderly woman for now. Steve had actually gotten along quite well with Ms. Gloria. He didn't want to hear any nasty things from her right now. And Kate wasn't with her mother. She had gone to her friend's place. Kate and Tiffany had been friends since school, and they could cry on each other's shoulders about any troubles. This time, it was over a bottle of red semi-sweet wine. Kate told Tiffany about her husband's betrayal. She cried, talked, and drank. "He's a jerk," Tiffany sympathized, as she always did. "I always knew it would end like this." "Why?" Kate sniffled, wiping her nose. "Because it's written all over his face. His eyes are oily, like a tomcat in March. I really don't understand. What did you see in him?" "Love," Kate replied. "That's where all our troubles come from, love," Tiffany shook her head. Kate agreed with her friend and continued to cry. The wine, however, did its job. When the bottle was empty, the friends decided that nothing terrible had happened. It was good that everything had come to light now. What if it had happened when Kate had finally managed to get pregnant? Yes, everything happens for a reason. It's all for the best. "Tiffany, can I stay with you for a few days?" Kate asked, settling down on the couch. "Of course," Tiffany nodded. "But I don't understand. Why don't you want to go back to your mother? You see, she's so fragile, sensitive. If something goes wrong, her heart starts acting up. I don't want her to worry. Besides, I don't want to tell her anything right now." "So, are you thinking of reconciling with Steve?" "No. He betrayed me." And Kate burst into tears again, while Tiffany tried to calm her down. "I can't imagine how we'll meet again at work," Kate said, sniffing. "I don't want to go anywhere tomorrow." "Well, don't go." Tiffany supported her. After thinking for a while, Tiffany made a suggestion. "Kate, I was given a vacation package at work for a seaside trip. It's not a foreign resort, but it's still a decent place. I honestly wanted to go myself, but you need it more. In short, the departure is the day after tomorrow. Will you go?" "Me?" Kate was taken aback. "Why?" "It's your vacation package, I have nothing to do with it. The vacation package is not personal. Everything is fine. Kate, you need to relax, have some fun, breathe in the sea air, and get some sun. It will help clear her mind. And then you can come back and talk to Steve. Maybe by then, you'll even consider reconciling." "Reconcile with him?" "Never," Kate exclaimed. But then she paused, deep in thought. "Actually, Tiffany, it's a good idea. But I still feel uncomfortable. It's like I'm taking away your vacation." "You're not taking anything away. I'm giving it to you. We're best friends, after all." "Thank you." They hugged, no tears left. The women started discussing what they needed to do before the trip. Buying a swimsuit, sunscreen, and many other things to ensure a joyful vacation. The next morning, Kate called her workplace and shocked her boss. She needed 2 weeks of vacation, starting today. Her boss highly valued Kate as a professional, so he reluctantly approved the leave. Just submit a written request, he said as a parting remark. Take care of your affairs. Everything is in order, Kate assured him. I'll bring in the request. Nevertheless, she still had to go to work. But Kate timed it so that Steve wouldn't be in the office. She met them outside the building. They walked out looking so happy and in love. Steve was holding Jessica by the waist, and she was chattering away. Steve froze when he saw Kate, and her legs turned to jelly. She wanted to rush at Steve with her fists and then grab Jessica by her faded locks. But her feet felt glued to the ground, and her heart pounded in her chest as if it would burst out at any moment. She found the strength to restrain herself. To appear as indifferent as possible, she managed to force a smile. Well, lovebirds, you don't even bother hiding now, she asked, a hint of irony in her voice. Kate, we're adults. Let's not make a scene, Steve replied, flustered, trying to shield Jessica. Don't worry. I won't touch your passion, Kate responded calmly. Go your own way. I don't have time to sort things out with a traitor. Besides, I'm starting a new life. I'm flying off to the seaside for a vacation. She couldn't resist boasting a bit. Let her almost ex-husband be surprised. Where did she get the money for the vacation? Steve wanted to pinch her with his words. To the seaside? Steve's expression even changed. And with whom? With my beloved, Kate lied and walked away. But her heart was in turmoil. She wanted to cry. Yet, she calmly swam past her husband and his lover. They watched her with bewildered eyes. So, that's how it is? Steve shouted after her. Yesterday you acted all offended and hurt, and it turns out you've been cheating on me for a long time? It's not your place to talk about it, Kate threw back over her shoulder. Bitch. Steve shouted more nasty things, but Kate didn't listen anymore. She rushed into the building and caught her breath. Tears threatened to stream down her cheeks. There was a lump in her throat, making it hard to breathe. Quiet. Quiet. Kate whispered to herself. She glanced towards the entrance and saw Steve and Jessica heading towards a cafe, passionately discussing something. They were talking about her. Well, let Steve rack his brain now. Who is she with and where? And she wouldn't say a word. Kate submitted her paperwork to the HR department. She went to the accounting department to say goodbye to the girls. When they found out that Kate was going on a seaside vacation, they were slightly envious. She didn't reveal the whole truth to them either. Let there be intrigue. She didn't want their pity or sympathy. Let them think that she wasn't alone. That she didn't get dumped but left on her own accord. After work, Kate hurried home and packed the necessary items. She glanced at the door, wondering what would happen when she returned. But she didn't want to think about it now. The next stop on her itinerary today was her mother. Ms. Gloria felt a sense of unease that morning for some reason. She checked her blood pressure. No, everything was normal. She took all the necessary pills, but her heart still felt heavy. She decided to distract herself by baking some pastries. The worry dissipated as she worked with the dough and fillings. Soon, delightful aromas wafted through the apartment, and then the doorbell rang. Perhaps the neighbor smelled the baking, Ms. Gloria chuckled to herself. Sometimes, Ms. Sarah would drop by for a chat about life. Ms. Gloria opened the door, and her eyebrows shot up. Kate. Why aren't you at work? She exclaimed. Did they fire you? Oh, my heart was aching for a reason. No one fired me, Mom, Kate smiled. I'm on vacation starting today. Vacation? But you were planning to go in August. Weren't you and Steve planning to go to the dacha and do some preparations? Oh, I rescheduled. Kate ignored the topic of the dacha and her husband. Mom, I received a vacation package as a gift. I'm flying to the seaside tomorrow. To the seaside? Ms. Gloria frowned. Alone? What about Steve? The vacation package is for one person. And Steve is not a child, he'll manage without me, Kate shrugged. She didn't tell Miss Gloria about her husband's betrayal. Let her find out later, not now. Kate felt sorry for her, knowing her sensitive nature. And she was worried about her health. It's true what they say, ignorance is bliss. Kate and Miss Gloria enjoyed tea and fragrant pastries, chatting about trivial matters. Miss Gloria kept trying to steer the conversation towards Kate's husband, but Kate skillfully diverted it. She talked about upcoming preparations, the weather in the south, and the benefits of getting a tan by the sea. Next time, Mom, we will definitely go together, she said, embracing Miss Gloria as they said goodbye. What? Me, her mother shrugged. You better go with your husband. Kate hugged her mother once more and left the apartment. She still had a lot to do before her trip. A weight lifted off her shoulders, and she thought less about the hurt Steve had caused her. Kate had a feeling that this trip would completely change her life. The next morning, Tiffany accompanied Kate to the airport. Relax and enjoy it for the both of us, my friend, Tiffany winked. I'll do my best, Kate smiled. You know what? I'm so grateful to you. I feel like thanks to this vacation package, my life will change for the better. Tiffany, I will never forget your generous gift. Oh, come on, it's nothing. As long as you're smiling, I'm happy. The friends hugged each other farewell, and soon Kate was gazing out of the window, watching the disappearing earth. She was flying above the clouds, towards her dream, towards the sea. She had always wanted to visit there, but her perpetual thriftiness had never allowed it. And now her dream was coming true. Steve returned home in the evening, but Kate was nowhere to be found. He noticed the absence of her travel bag and suitcase. Some of her belongings were missing. So, she really went on vacation. Steve smirked. That rascal. He had been hiding, pretending to be a loving husband. Afraid that his wife would find out about his affair. Turns out she wasn't that upset about it. Probably because she had her own infidelity. She admitted it herself yesterday. Steve couldn't understand one thing. Why was she so obsessed with the idea of having a child with me then? Or maybe the lover didn't want it. Or perhaps Kate didn't go anywhere. Just blurted it out in a fit of anger. Steve decided to call Miss Gloria to find out where her daughter was. No, he didn't feel any remorse. He just wanted to clarify things. Miss Gloria was very surprised when she heard Steve's question. Where's Kate? You don't know? I don't understand anything. Kate was here yesterday. She said her friend gave her a vacation package as a gift. She went on vacation, the woman said, feeling worried. I told her it's not good to go alone without you. She took it lightly. Steve, is everything all right between you and Kate? Unfortunately, no, Steve replied. Now I understand everything, more than ever. What do you understand? Yes, that your daughter is cheating on me, Miss Gloria. Kate. Are you kidding me? She loves you more than life itself. Yes, she told me herself that she has a lover. I didn't want to believe it, but now I see. She went on vacation with him. Steve spoke and became increasingly convinced of his righteousness. He was angry at his wife, completely forgetting his own infidelity. Now in Miss Gloria's eyes, he was the victim. She tried to say something to defend her daughter. The woman couldn't believe that Kate would do such a thing. But Steve was devastated. He yelled into the phone, talking about how much he loved Kate. And she betrayed him. For what? Why? There was only one way out now. Divorce. Wait, Steve. Calm down, Miss Gloria said calmly. Kate will come back, and everything will be clarified. She couldn't have betrayed you. Maybe she got upset with you about something? Yes, about what? How could I have upset her? I did everything for her. I still don't believe that my daughter could do such a thing, Miss Gloria firmly replied. That's not how I raised her. All right, let's not drive ourselves crazy. Maybe someone told her something about you, and Kate believed it. We'll talk when she returns. That's right, Ms. Gloria. You're probably right. I won't torment myself anymore. Maybe someone told her something about me, and she believed it. We'll talk when she comes back. Well, I'll call her right now. Her flight landed a long time ago, so she should be at her destination. That was the end of their conversation. Now Steve was convinced that no matter what Kate said to Ms. Gloria, she would always be at fault. He had already laid out his truth. Why did he even need all of this? Well, it was simple. Steve was a bit of a coward and always tried to shift blame onto others. Anyone but himself. For over an hour, Ms. Gloria tried to reach Kate, but her daughter's phone was out of range. The elderly woman felt her heart constrict with pain once again. Anxious premonitions overcame her. She absent-mindedly turned on the television to avoid the silence, listening to the voice of Kate's voicemail on her phone. The host initially spoke about world events. Then suddenly, the broadcast was interrupted with urgent news. On a mountain road in one of the resort towns, a bus went off the cliff. Several people died, many were injured, and there are missing persons. Ms. Gloria screamed upon hearing such news. It was indeed that same seaside town where Kate was heading. And then the phone rang. Without looking at the display, Ms. Gloria pressed the call button and shouted. Kate. Are you okay? Ms. Gloria, this is not Kate, it's Tiffany, she heard an anxious female voice say. Oh, Tiffany. I can't understand anything. They're talking about a bus accident, and Kate isn't saying anything. I know everything, Ms. Gloria. Just don't worry. Tell me it's not true. Kate wasn't on that bus, was she? I just called the emergency services. They told me that they are still confirming the passenger lists. Oh, God. I hope she wasn't on it. Ms. Gloria repeated those words like a prayer for the rest of the evening. Kate still hadn't called. Ms. Gloria informed Steve about what had happened. He was truly shocked. He didn't want to part with his wife like this. By morning, information started to come in. They had retrieved all the passengers, alive and dead, from the abyss, but Kate wasn't among them. Although she had been on the bus. That was for certain. Rescuers speculated that she might have been thrown into the nearby river. The turbulent mountain river could have swept Kate away from the site of the tragedy. Rescue teams were now searching for her body. Her body. Ms. Gloria refused to believe that Kate was gone. The neighbor, Ms. Sarah, upon hearing the news, was there to support Ms. Gloria. Tiffany also arrived. Shortly after, Steve showed up. Tiffany couldn't even look at him. He pretended to mourn while hiding his guilt. But that wasn't her concern. It wasn't appropriate to talk about Steve's betrayal in front of Ms. Gloria. The woman was already barely holding on. Tiffany asked several times. Should we call an ambulance? But the woman refused. And then, in a sudden moment, she collapsed. The ambulance arrived quickly. Ms. Gloria was hospitalized with suspected stroke. The last thing Kate remembered was the final moments on the bus. The passengers were admiring the local scenery outside the window. They marveled at the steep and narrow mountain road they were ascending. Kate also leaned against the window, watching the abyss that stretched infinitely deep, very close to the road. What if we go off? A worrisome thought flashed through her mind. She didn't even have time to convince herself that it was just nonsense. After all, it was a well-traveled route. The driver was clearly experienced. Then, suddenly, the bus jerked and veered off course. The next second, they were hurtling downwards. Kate screamed in terror, just like everyone else. Realizing that no one in this world could help them now except for God, and then came the impact and darkness. After that point, Kate felt like she was sleeping. She was trapped in a heavy and sticky dream that refused to end and only pulled her deeper into a dark abyss. In this dream, she was swimming. Or rather, a strong current was carrying her, painfully slamming her lifeless body against rocks, And Kate was helplessly surrendering to this unknown force. She felt like a grain of sand in a vast ocean. And then she realized that she was suffocating. She wanted to open her eyes, to breathe in the air, but the unpleasant icy water rushed into her lungs. Kate understood that this was not a dream. This was death. Then there was a jolt, an impact, and darkness once again. How long did this darkness last? Unknown. Kate woke up in some house. She was lying on a simple iron bed, covered with an old blanket. The woman tried to lift her head, and her whole body immediately seared with unbearable pain. She lost consciousness again. And the lingering dream once again pulled her into a web of visions. Steve appeared with his lover. They laughed. Kissed right in front of her eyes. Then her mother emerged from the mist. She said something, tried to convince her of something, and then she cried. And sometimes Kate saw a large bearded man leaning towards her, whispering something in an incomprehensible language. It was so terrifying, and then the dream receded. Kate opened her eyes and couldn't understand. Was she dead or still alive? Where was she? The same iron bed, the blanket. The woman cautiously turned her head. The pain was still there, but not as sharp. Kate could make out the simple furnishings of the room where she lay. Clay floor, whitewashed stone walls. A small window covered with some rag. Besides the bed, there was a roughly assembled table, an old wardrobe, and a smoldering hearth in the corner. Not a stove or a fireplace, but specifically a hearth. Kate had seen something like it in a cartoon from her childhood. Hanging from an iron rod over it was a pot. The room smelled of some herbs. Kate couldn't identify them, but the scent made her desperately want to sneeze. Achoo, she couldn't hold it in. And then, from behind the curtain that separated another room, the bearded man from Kate's dreams appeared. She froze in horror, realizing that the dream was continuing. "Are you awake?" The man's voice brought her out of her stupor. "Well, finally. You've been lying here for 3 months. Neither dying nor living." 3 months? Kate whispered in horror. "Where am I? Who are you?" "Call me Dustin," the man smirked. "And what's your name? Do you remember?" "I'm Kate." "Good, good. And what happened to you, Kate? Do you remember?" "The bus. I was on it. It fell into the abyss." "Right. So your skull didn't crack. That's good. I found you on the riverbank and brought you here. I've been nursing you for 3 months. Your leg was broken, but I applied a splint correctly. It should be healing by now. Why am I here? Why didn't you take me to the hospital?" "To the hospital," the man smirked again. "Why? No. You're mine." And he, laughing, disappeared behind the curtain again. Kate realized that her return from the afterlife was not the end of her torment. And the most frightening thing was that her body hardly obeyed her. She felt like a rag doll, lying on this iron bed. And this man was free to do whatever he wanted with her. Soon Dustin returned. He approached the hearth, poured some liquid from there into an iron cup, and then sat on a roughly assembled stool next to Kate's bed. "Drink," he said, extending the cup to her. "What is this?" Kate whispered in fear. "Don't be afraid. It's not poisoned." His lips curled into a snake-like smile. "It's an infusion of mountain herbs. It's good for you now. Drink," I said. And he brought the drink to Kate's lips, pressing the rim of the cup against them. The woman obediently drank. Surprisingly, the warm infusion was pleasant, with a slight bitterness and a honey aftertaste. After this drink, Kate felt a refreshing wave spread through her body. She even wanted to sit up. "Don't hurry," Dustin said, observing her attempts. "Don't waste your strength in vain. You'll get up when your body allows it." Kate nodded obediently once again. This big bearded man scared her and, at the same time, amazed her. Who was he? Why was he keeping her in this old shack? Was she his captive? Several more days passed. Kate was able to get up on her own. One day she went outside and froze in shock. There were only mountains around her. The small stone house was perched so high that it seemed like she could touch the sky with her hand. And there was no one around. Dustin emerged from behind a rock. He was wearing a long coat, leaning on a stick, and carrying a large sack on his back. In the daylight, Kate saw him clearly for the first time. He was a man in his 50s, sturdy and tall, with a thick black beard. His dark curls, with a touch of gray, reached almost to his shoulders. He had a sharp nose and a predatory gaze in his dark eyes. Dustin resembled a vulture in some way. Kate felt shivers running down her spine. What kind of person was he? Ventured out, huh? Dustin unexpectedly greeted her in a friendly manner, approaching closer. That's good. Breathe the air. It's good for you. Although your head might spin a bit due to the unfamiliarity. Does it? No. I'm fine. And where have you been? Kate asked. On business, Dustin chuckled. We're going to have a feast soon. He shrugged the sack off his shoulder and untied it. Kate recoiled in horror at the sight of its contents. Well, why are you so scared? Dustin laughed. It's meat. A sheep. I have a small flock grazing down below. You need some fresh meat now. Do you like lamb? To be honest, I can't stand it, Kate admitted. Well, there's nothing else, Dustin shrugged. You'll eat it. Maybe you can help me? What should I do? Kate asked. Peel the vegetables. They're under the table in a box. Take 2 big onions and the same amount of carrots. While Kate peeled the vegetables, Dustin busied himself with the meat. Soon, a cauldron with lamb was boiling on the coals outside the house. Kate and her savior sat on the porch. She wanted to ask this stern man many things, but she hesitated. Although she no longer felt the same fear towards him as before. Now Dustin seemed like an ordinary person to her. Aloof, not talkative, but overall normal, not some villain. Soon, the lamb was ready, and Kate found herself eating with an appetite she had never experienced before. The meat simply melted in her mouth, and the broth was heavenly. You said you didn't eat lamb, Dustin chuckled as he watched her eat heartily. This must be some different kind of lamb, she replied with a full mouth. I've never tasted anything so delicious in my life. That's because it's cooked right, Dustin smiled. Keep eating. You need strength. And then they sat on the porch again, sipping herbal tea and each lost in their own thoughts. Dustin, tell me about yourself, Kate timidly asked. What is there to tell? He shook his head. I've been living as a recluse for many years. That's it. Why don't you tell me about yourself? Are you married? I used to be, Kate replied after a moment of thought. And she quietly revealed her entire story to Dustin. He listened. Remained silent. Sighed. Nodded. We are somewhat alike, after all, he suddenly spoke hoarsely. I was betrayed too. But it happened many years ago. Tell me, she urged. He looked at her intently, pondered, and then let out a dark chuckle. Well, listen. And Kate sat there, holding her breath, listening to Dustin's story. Many years ago, he was a warrior. He believed that his commanders were telling the truth, and he fought for what he thought was a just cause. No, he wasn't some monster. He believed he was defending the right of his people to live independently. But then he discovered that he had been deceived. Those in power above were only interested in power and money. When Dustin realized this, he immediately refused to fight. He returned home to his family. He had a beautiful wife at the time. He thought that Martha would be waiting for him, but He found his wife with the neighbor, her lover. A plain little man, weak. What did Martha see in him? He wanted to kill them both on the spot. Martha remained silent, looking at him with eyes full of horror. And the neighbor lay at his feet, begging to be spared. It disgusted Dustin. He stepped back. He didn't want that sin on his soul. He left the house, slamming the door behind him. He didn't know where to go. He had only walked 100 meters away from his house when a whistle, a rumble, and then an explosion echoed. A shell landed right on his home, where Martha was at that moment. There was now a deep crater where the house used to be. Dustin stood there, stunned by everything that had happened. Just a minute ago, he had been looking at his wife, on the verge of doing something irreparable, but he held back because he still loved her. But the Almighty had a different plan. And it hurt Dustin so much. Now he was truly alone. Unwanted by anyone, he left the village. He climbed high into the mountains. For a long time, he hid like an animal. He knew that the state offered amnesty to people like him. He didn't need that kind of forgiveness because he couldn't forgive himself. For that war, for the deaths he unintentionally caused. For the maternal grief. And he couldn't forgive himself for leaving home back then. If he had stayed, he would have suffered no more. But time passed. With years, everything calmed down. The memories of the past war remained. Many like Dustin reintegrated into society, but he remained high in the mountains. He lived as a recluse. That way, he felt closer to God, who would one day send him forgiveness. Over time, Dustin managed to build a home and buy sheep. He earned money through hunting. He sold fur and meat to the locals below and managed to accumulate some savings. He actually enjoyed the reclusive lifestyle he continued to lead. He only interacted with people when absolutely necessary. The locals knew that a strange man lived high in the mountains. But where exactly? No one knew because Dustin carefully concealed his trails. Did he feel lonely? Certainly, yes. Sometimes he would howl with the wolves at night, but when the sun rose, a new day began, and Dustin continued to live on. One day, he was returning from a small village where he went to buy matches and salt. The road followed the river. Unexpectedly, from a distance, he saw something on the riverbank. At first, he thought it was just a peculiar piece of driftwood. But as he approached, he realized it was a person. A woman. Dustin was horrified to see the wounds on her body. She must have fallen from a height and then been stranded in the river for a long time. She appeared to be dead. Just in case, he checked her pulse. Suddenly, he felt a faint heartbeat. Then the woman stirred. What should he do? His first thought was to pick her up and carry her to the village, but Dustin immediately stopped himself. What if they accused him of assaulting the woman? No, he didn't need all those investigations, and he couldn't abandon her there either. So, carefully lifting her in his arms, he carried her high into the mountains. For nearly 3 months, the woman teetered between life and death. Dustin remembered all the tricks his deceased mother and grandmother had known and used them to treat the unfortunate woman. Her recovery involved herbs, incantations, and the medicine he had bought in the city. From the war, he remembered well how to heal wounds. And still, there was one concern: the woman's leg. It was clearly broken. At his own risk, Dustin applied splints. Over time, the leg began to heal. However, the woman never regained consciousness. She often tossed and turned, cried, and Dustin was there by her side. He wiped the sweat from her forehead, changed her clothes, and bathed her. He was simply there. For the first time in many years, Dustin felt what it meant to care for someone. He even bought her things, various feminine trinkets from the village store, just to bring her joy. This unfortunate stranger became the purpose of his life, and he was certain of one thing: he wouldn't give her up to anyone. She belonged to him. No, she didn't resemble his ex-wife in the slightest. She was small, with light hair. But that was actually for the best. Memories of Martha still caused pain in his heart. This woman was supposed to heal him from the past. At least, that's what Dustin believed. Of course, he didn't express these thoughts to Kate, but she understood anyway. She listened to him with a mixed feeling of fear, pity, and gratitude. After all, he had saved her, brought her back from the beyond. But what came next? You have a heavy fate. I'm so sorry that everything turned out this way in your life, Kate cautiously chose her words. I would like to know. Will you let me go? No. Dustin replied sharply. Am I your captive then? You're my guest. Dustin, please understand. I can't live here with you. My mother is sick. She hasn't known what happened to me for so many months. They probably think I'm dead. That's good, that's what they think. We will live here. But it's cruel. You can't decide for me. I have that right because I pulled you from the other side. But. No buts. You will be with me, and that's final. I've decided it. Kate, understand this. I won't do anything bad to you. I won't even touch you without your permission, but you're mine, and you always will be, Dustin declared, then stood up and went inside the house. Turning around, he added, and don't even think about running away from here. It won't work anyway. Either you'll fall off the cliffs, or the wild animals will devour you. Nobody will help you here. Only I can do that. He disappeared into the house, while Kate sat there, swallowing her tears. Will she really have to spend her entire life in these mountains with this recluse? Will she never see her mother, her friend Tiffany, or even Steve again? The thought of the latter made her shudder. No, I definitely don't want to see him. And so, endless days flowed by. At first, Kate refused to eat and refused to speak to Dustin. He didn't react in any way. He would leave in the morning through a secret path and return in the evening. Seeing that nothing was prepared, he would sigh and start working. Kate sat there conspicuously, doing nothing. They remained silent for days, weeks. It drove Kate crazy. She was ready to escape. She even tried to follow the same path that Dustin had taken in the morning. As he had warned, she almost fell into an abyss. How did he manage to navigate it? It was incomprehensible to her. Then winter came, and in the mountains, it was quite harsh. Dustin now stayed at home all day. He had given away his sheep to someone for safekeeping, although he had slaughtered some of them. So, hunger wasn't a threat to them. He sat by the hearth, keeping warm, lost in his thoughts. Kate, huddled in a corner, remained silent. He cooked food and silently placed a plate in front of her. Kate refused at first, but sometimes she couldn't resist her hunger and took a bite. One morning, Kate woke up to strange wheezing sounds coming from the adjacent room. It was Dustin's breathing. She pulled back the curtain and observed the man lying on a homemade cot. Then, gaining courage, she approached closer. Dustin was unconscious. Kate placed her hand on his forehead and quickly withdrew it. He was burning up. She hurriedly searched for the medicine kit. After all, there were medications with which he had treated her. Fortunately, she found everything she needed: fever-reducing medication, antibiotics, even ampoules and syringes. But Kate had never administered injections before. Besides, how could she give him one if he was unconscious? She wasn't a doctor. Kate recalled how her mother used to bring down her temperature in childhood by wiping her with water and vinegar. Somewhere in the kitchen cabinet, she had seen vinegar. She diluted it according to her own judgment and began wiping Dustin with a damp cloth. After some time, his temperature started to drop. Finally, Dustin opened his eyes. Phew. Why does it smell like vinegar in here? He uttered. Did you decide to turn me into a kebab? I'm trying to help you. Your fever was so high that you lost consciousness, Kate timidly replied. I didn't know how to do it correctly, but it seems to have helped. It helped. Now I'll stink like marinated meat for a month, Dustin chuckled. Well, there you go. Making jokes. That means you're feeling better, Kate smiled. You need to go to the hospital. What if it's pneumonia? And that's exactly what it is, pneumonia, Dustin weakly nodded. I had it in my childhood. The sensation is the same now. Then it's even more reason to go to the hospital. But how? Call an ambulance? We have no phone, no road. We're completely cut off from the world. Don't worry, girl. I won't leave you alone here. I'll recover. Now you'll be the one taking care of me. See those ampoules? You'll give me injections with this medicine, 1 per day. Injections? Kate exclaimed in horror. I don't know how. Why don't I give you tablets instead? I'll take the tablets myself, I'll see which ones are needed. But the injections are necessary right now. Also, there's a shelf above the hearth with a jar of herbs. Take a handful and pour a liter of boiling water over it. Let it steep, and I'll drink it. Kate did everything as Dustin instructed. She took charge of their simple dwelling. Cleaning, laundry, cooking, it all fell to her. Dustin, overcoming his weakness, explained to her how to manage the hearth. A week passed, and he was already on the mend. But then, another problem arose. Dustin usually fetched water from somewhere, but now he couldn't do that. The large barrel of water was almost empty. No food, no bathing. Kate was desperate. Kate, melt the snow, Dustin suggested. I'm sorry that you have to resort to using such water for now. I'll recover, and I'll bring you the most delicious water myself. Kate smiled gratefully. Why hadn't she thought of that herself? Little by little, they became friends. Now they no longer remained silent like before. Kate shared stories about her life in the city, while Dustin talked about his childhood and youth. Those were the only years he remembered with fondness. But then, the war took away all his loved ones. 3 weeks later, Dustin stood firmly on his feet again. He regained his position as the head of the household. He brought water, but he never told Kate where he got it from. And she didn't ask anymore. She cooked, cleaned, just as before. They communicated as good friends. Then spring arrived, followed by summer. It had been over a year since Kate had been living with Dustin. One evening, she sat on a rock, gazing at the sky. A fluffy white cloud drifted right above her head. It seemed like she could reach out and feel how soft it was. Kate remembered how she used to be capricious as a child, asking her mother to fetch her a piece of cloud from the sky. Her mother would just laugh and then take her to the stall selling cotton candy. And that was like a cloud too, but one that she could taste. The woman smiled at her memories. She didn't notice Dustin approaching from behind. He watched her attentively. Sensing his gaze, Kate turned around. Their eyes met. She tensed up. It was clear that he wanted to tell her something very important. Kate. What were you thinking about just now? He asked. I was remembering my mother, she replied softly. Do you miss her? Very much. Kate. I've thought long and hard, and I've realized you're right. You should live in your own world. I've been cruel, depriving you of everything you were accustomed to. It's not right. You won't be happy with me if you lose everything. That's why I've made a decision. I'll help you descend from the mountains and return to your own people. Really? Kate exclaimed, filled with joy, but then her face darkened. And what about you? Will you also return to people? No. I will stay here. This is where I belong. But how can you be alone here? I have lived alone for many years, and I will continue to do so. But you don't belong here. You should return home. Perhaps you can reconcile with your husband or find someone else. Have a child. You're still so young. As for me, I'm almost an old man. I'm sorry, girl, for thinking I could determine your life. I was wrong. And you, Dustin, forgive me, Kate sobbed and clung to his chest. I was unbearable at times. I'm sorry. I just really want to go home. Truly. But I can't leave you here. You can. Dustin firmly replied, embracing her shoulders tightly. The next day, he led her down unfamiliar paths. Sometimes it felt like Kate was on the verge of falling, but Dustin's strong hand was always there. Once they reached the plains, Kate felt as if the entire ground had suddenly become flat. Where were the mountains she had grown accustomed to during this past year? Kate turned to look at the cliff. It feels strange, she shyly smiled at Dustin. You'll get used to it. Just keep walking straight, and you'll reach the settlement. They'll help you there. Well, goodbye, Kate. Goodbye, Dustin. They embraced each other in farewell. Then he abruptly pushed her away and walked away towards the mountains. Kate watched him leave. Dustin, she suddenly called out to him. He froze in place and slowly turned around. What's your real name? It's not Dustin, is it? It's not Dustin, he smiled. It's better if you remember me by that name. Now go, girl, and be happy. And he turned back towards the mountains. He walked along the trail, tall and strong, yet gloomy and lonely like a wolf separated from the pack, destined to live as a recluse until the end of his days. But it was his choice. And he walked. Suddenly, his heart felt light. He realized that the burden that had weighed on him for many years had finally disappeared. Heaven had sent him forgiveness for his good deed. No, it didn't mean that his life would change in an instant. He would still return to his home in the mountains. He would tend to his sheep, climb the mountains. But now he knew that he wasn't living in vain. He had saved a human life. He had acted honorably in a difficult situation. He was human. Kate watched him leave, not knowing what Dustin was thinking at that moment. But she simply wished for him to find a little more happiness. He deserved it. Kate walked towards the people. A police car stopped in front of the settlement, as if it was prearranged. The local officer was simply curious about the unfamiliar woman speaking there. Kate told them that she had been in an accident a year ago and was taken care of by a family in the mountains until today, when she was brought back to civilization. She lied a little. She didn't mention anything about Dustin. Who knew if it would harm him in any way? She couldn't respond to kindness with treachery. Soon, Kate was helped to return to her hometown. And what she had to face there was truly shocking. Ms. Gloria did end up in the hospital with a stroke. Her condition was very severe, and the doctors couldn't provide any prognosis. For 3 months, the unfortunate woman teetered between life and death. Tiffany would visit her in the hospital. Ms. Sarah, their neighbor, would occasionally stop by. And Steve would also come by. During this time, he had calmed down completely. Jessica moved in with him. He hardly thought about Kate anymore, believing that she had perished. However, Steve still occasionally visited Ms. Gloria in the hospital. He had one idea he wanted to realize. He could only hope that Ms. Gloria wouldn't pass away before he had the chance. After 3 months, Ms. Gloria did show signs of improvement. However, the right side of her body was now unresponsive. It was at this point that Steve showered the elderly woman with care and attention. He brought her fruits and spent hours by her side. Ms. Gloria, struggling to form words, would ask about Kate. Were there any updates? Not yet, Steve said gloomily. But don't worry. No news is good news. Right now, the most important thing is for you to get better. Our Kate will be found. I believe in that. Ms. Gloria shook her head in response and wept. Tiffany, who had caught Steve at the hospital with Ms. Gloria several times, was bewildered. Why did he keep coming here? Didn't he already live with his Jessica? Without any hesitation. Perhaps Ms. Gloria was unaware of his affair. One day, when they crossed paths in the hospital corridor, Tiffany approached Steve. What are you doing here? Aren't you ashamed to look into the eyes of your wife's mother, whom you betrayed? She asked quietly. I betrayed her? Steve chuckled. She ran off with her lover herself. That's what she got. There is a God in this world. Don't you dare touch God, you wretch, Tiffany whispered. Kate never cheated on you. I know that for sure. And you. Aren't you ashamed to keep coming to Ms. Gloria? Not your business, Steve retorted. Or are you going to run and tell her everything now? Yes, I would gladly do so. But I know that this news could send that poor woman to the other world. But rest assured, as soon as she recovers, I will tell her everything. Sure, Steve nodded and walked into the ward. He knew that Tiffany wouldn't interfere with his plans. The thing was, a monstrous plan had formed in his mind, and he was slowly but surely executing it. He was lucky that his mistress's cousin worked at the same company as Tiffany. Steve was in awe of himself. After all, he had all the right people in the right places. At work, his wife Jessica's uncle was his boss, and now this other relative conveniently appeared. Rachel, Jessica's sister, was Tiffany's immediate supervisor at work. It didn't cost Steve much to ask his mistress to talk to her relative and have Tiffany sent on a long business trip. Maybe for 3 or 4 months. Rachel agreed to help without delving into the details. She called Tiffany into her office and told her that she was being sent for a 3-month internship in England. Tiffany was overjoyed. How could a regular employee like her go to England? What are you so surprised about? Rachel smiled. You're a hard-working employee. I see that you have great potential. So, you've rightfully earned this internship. Thank you. Tiffany expressed her gratitude and rejoiced. But then a sense of confusion set in. How could she leave Ms. Gloria behind? Tiffany felt responsible for her. And she felt a tinge of guilt. If she hadn't given Kate that ticket, none of this would have happened. But how could she have known it would all end this way? It was fate. Kate's fate, it seemed. Although Tiffany felt sorry for her friend to tears, she no longer believed that Kate would be found. She had seen the photos of the cliff from which the bus had fallen. If they hadn't found her immediately, it was unlikely they would now. How terrible and unfair it all was. But life went on. Tiffany decided that before leaving on her business trip, she would talk to Ms. Gloria. If she opposed it, Tiffany wouldn't go anywhere. But the elderly woman accepted the news calmly. She was even happy about it. You'll see the world, Tiffany. Go. Steve will take care of me, Ms. Gloria said. Steve. Tiffany furrowed her brow. Ms. Gloria, you trust him too much, please. Well, am I an unreasonable child or something? Ms. Gloria said slowly. Even though I'm lying here after a stroke, barely able to speak, my mind is still intact. And that's what matters, Tiffany nodded in response. She kissed Ms. Gloria goodbye, hugged her tightly, and left the ward. Steve, at the end of the corridor, had been observing her. Tiffany didn't notice him. She hurried off to prepare for her business trip. Perfect, Steve thought. Now you definitely won't interfere with my plans. A few weeks later, the question of discharging Ms. Gloria arose. The doctors had done their best to restore her health, but the rest depended on her body's ability to recover. Ms. Gloria required round-the-clock care at home. But who would take on such responsibility? Don't worry, Ms. Gloria. I'll arrange everything, Steve reassured her. We'll transport you to the apartment. I'll hire a caregiver. I'll come every day. And we'll also bring in a masseuse and a nurse to administer your injections. You'll be up and running in no time. You'll see. Really, the sick woman rejoiced. Thank you, Steve, for your support. If it weren't for you, I might as well die right now. We'll live a little longer, Steve smiled. You'll see. Everything will be wonderful for us. Steve arranged for a special vehicle and transported Ms. Gloria to her apartment. He provided everything necessary and surrounded her with care that not every son could provide. The sick woman was delighted that she was fortunate to have Steve as her son-in-law. She rejoiced and cried for her daughter. Where is she? Ms. Gloria's maternal heart couldn't believe that Kate had died. She will definitely come back, and everything will be fine between her and Steve, Ms. Gloria said. Steve contemplated the next step of his plan. It was still taking shape, but then a chance encounter helped him. One day after work, he arrived at Ms. Gloria's apartment and found a tall middle-aged blonde there. She looked at Steve disdainfully without saying a word and left. The caregiver explained that the woman had come, introduced herself as Ms. Gloria's husband's niece, and was allowed in. "Yes, that's Laura," Ms. Gloria confirmed. "My husband's niece. You could say she's the only relative I have left." She sobbed and burst into tears. Steve managed to find out what had happened. It turned out that Laura had learned about Kate's disappearance under tragic circumstances, and a plan immediately formed in her mind. She came to Ms. Gloria with a proposal for her to write a will now, while she was alive, leaving the apartment to Laura. After all, she was the only heir after Kate. It would prevent any future legal complications and court battles. "But nobody has seen my Kate dead," Ms. Gloria barely restrained herself as she replied to Laura. "This is her apartment." "I understand that," Laura agreed. "But let's be realistic. It's been so many months, and they still haven't found her. There are mountains, a river. There won't be any bones left to collect." "How dare you!" Ms. Gloria shouted as she tried to sit up. "Get out. Get out of here." "I'll go," Laura smirked. "But the apartment will still be mine. Soon enough, you'll be joining your daughter." And she left the room, encountering Steve on the way. Now he sat there and contemplated what to do with this information. He hadn't even known about this relative. "Yes, a cunning lady," he muttered to himself. "I need to put her in her place somehow. I have an idea, Steve. Maybe I can write a will for you? So that if Kate returns when I'm no longer here, Laura won't be able to grab the apartment. That way, everything will stay within the family," Ms. Gloria timidly suggested. Steve could only dream of such a proposition coming from the woman herself. "Then it should be a gift deed, not a will. That way, Laura won't be able to contest it in court," he replied after thinking for a while. "But, honestly, it makes me uncomfortable. How can I be the one to dispose of your apartment?" "Oh, Steve, forget about it. You're almost like a son to me. And you and Kate will sort things out and reconcile for sure. She will come back." "I'm sure of it," Ms. Gloria softly replied. The next day, a notary arrived at the elderly woman's apartment. The gift deed was drawn up and notarized. It was done. Steve was elated. Everything was going according to plan. He didn't even expect it to be so easy. In the evening, Steve shared his plans with his lover. "We'll send the old woman to a nursing home, and then we'll sell the apartment," he dreamily said. "It's a downtown apartment. High ceilings. The renovation isn't great, but we can ask for the highest price anyway. Shouldn't we move into it ourselves for now?" Jessica suggested. "My dear, why would we need that dump? My boss is planning to transfer me to the capital," Steve replied. "Yes, and not without my help," Jessica laughed. "Of course, my love. What would I do without you? So, we'll sell the apartment here and have enough money for a decent place in the capital." "I've already looked at the prices," Steve explained. "You're so practical," Jessica exclaimed happily, embracing Steve. And they both laughed. But Steve couldn't bring himself to tell Ms. Gloria that he was now free to dispose of her apartment. He lacked the courage. So he came up with a story about rehabilitation. He claimed that there was a vacant spot in a decent sanatorium, and they were already expecting Ms. Gloria there. He conveniently omitted the fact that it was just an ordinary nursing home where unwanted elderly people were sent. Steve kept that to himself. Ms. Gloria was delighted. What a caring son-in-law she had. However, Steve didn't accompany her to the much-praised sanatorium. Instead, the special vehicle and a couple of orderlies arrived. "Ms. Gloria, I would gladly accompany you, but work calls. My boss called and said there was an urgent meeting," Steve justified himself. "Yes, of course. I understand. Work comes first. Once I settle in, I'll call you," Ms. Gloria assured him as the orderlies loaded her into the vehicle on a stretcher. "I'll be waiting for your call," Steve shouted after her, waving his hand. As soon as the vehicle drove away, Steve added Ms. Gloria's number to the block list on his phone and then called a real estate agent. Ms. Gloria traveled to her sanatorium feeling inspired. Perhaps all these procedures would help, and she would be able to walk again, even with the aid of crutches or a walker. Maybe Kate would also be found there. The vehicle left the city and started jolting along the bumpy road. Ms. Gloria frowned. Something didn't feel right. "Young man," she asked one of the orderlies. "Could you please open the window a little? It's stuffy in here." "Sure thing," he smirked. "To let the dust in. Bear with it, old lady. We'll be there soon." "Why are you talking to me like that?" Ms. Gloria asked, still struggling to form words. Although her speech had returned, it was difficult for her to speak during moments of distress. The orderlies exchanged glances and burst into laughter. "Why should I bow to you, old hag? Endure it. We'll get you there in the best condition. You'll rest in your own bed," one of them said. "Yeah, in the world's best sanatorium," the other chimed in, and they laughed again. Anxiety settled in the heart of the sick woman. Where were they taking her? Maybe I should call Steve? She attempted to dial his number, but all she heard were long beeps. Then the vehicle entered a small settlement. It drove through an abandoned street and stopped in front of a two-story building with weathered panels. The orderlies got to work efficiently. They pulled Ms. Gloria out on a stretcher and dragged her inside. When they entered the building, the first thing the elderly woman noticed was a bucket by the doorway. It was an ordinary 10-liter iron bucket filled almost to the brim with cigarette butts. "Where have you brought me?" the distressed woman asked in fear. "Take me back." There was no such order. "It's a one-way trip," the orderlies chuckled and continued dragging the stretcher. Everything that happened afterward felt like a bad dream to the woman. An intoxicated, lanky man in a white coat glanced indifferently at her and flipped through some documents. "Put her in room 5, he commanded. "No, this is no longer our concern," the orderlies shook their heads. "We only transport patients here, what you do with them is your business." "Well, damn it with you," the man muttered under his breath. "Throw her on the couch. I'll find someone to deal with her." The orderlies swiftly flipped the stretcher, and Ms. Gloria slumped face down on the couch. They left, uttering some vulgar remarks. The man in the white coat left too, and Ms. Gloria lay there, unable to turn over. Tears streamed down her face. It was difficult to breathe lying on her stomach, but she couldn't manage to flip herself. Soon, the man in the white coat returned, accompanied by 2 others. "All right, guys. Grab her by the hands and legs and take her to room 5, the staff member instructed. "What's in it for us?" one of them croaked. "I'll buy each of you a pack of good cigarettes," he replied. "All right." "She seems fragile," the newcomers agreed. They turned the woman over, grabbed her by the hands and legs, and dragged her into the ward. In that moment, Ms. Gloria prayed to God, begging him to take her away. She couldn't bear such humiliation. The men who were carrying Ms. Gloria were also residents of the nursing home. They were around 70 years old but still strong. They weren't necessarily bad, just rough and uncouth. On the way, they told Ms. Gloria that living there was bearable, and the food was tolerable. "It's a shame you can't walk on your own," one of them unintentionally remarked. "We only have one caregiver, so she won't come to you often. You'll have to endure." Ms. Gloria blushed from the roots of her hair. She was certainly not accustomed to such treatment. In the ward, she found herself among 5 other women, 2 of whom were also bedridden. Ms. Gloria tried calling Steve to tell him about the horror she had ended up in, but her son-in-law didn't answer. "What? They threw you in here like a dog too? And now they won't even talk to you?" her neighbor, a full-bodied woman in her 70s, asked. "I went through the same thing. Just give up on the phone. It's useless." "No, it must be a mistake. Steve said he arranged a stay for me in a boarding house," Ms. Gloria tearfully explained. "Yeah, they told us all the same," chuckled the frail elderly woman lying down. "And here we all are. Relatives send us here to die. Who sent you? My son-in-law. Why so surprised? And where is your daughter? She disappeared without a trace. Well, there's your answer, the full-bodied neighbor sneered. Your son-in-law tricked you. You didn't sign any documents for him, did you? The apartment. Oh. Then he won't even bring you oranges for the new year, the neighbor laughed. Forget it. You're here until the end. Ms. Gloria let out a quiet moan and burst into tears. The other women in the ward tried to console her. Well, there are worse places. At least the food here is decent. Steve was already occupied with his affairs and responsibilities. He was dealing with the apartment. He needed to sell the furniture and get rid of some junk. One day, as he stood by the entrance, his neighbor, Miss Sarah, who was also Ms. Gloria's neighbor, approached him. Steve, what's going on here? I saw Gloria being taken somewhere. Where? And why are you acting like you own the apartment? The old lady asked sternly. That's none of your business, Steve smirked. It's not my business? I'll call the police, and they'll put you in your place quickly. Answer me. Where did you take Gloria? Ms. Gloria is now living in a wonderful sanatorium. She's being treated by the best doctors. Soon, she'll be able to walk on her own again. And as for the apartment, she gave it to me as a gift, Steve calmly replied. She gave it to you? Ms. Sarah gasped. And where will she live when she returns from the sanatorium? So it's with me, Steve confidently nodded. I'm going to buy another apartment now, closer to my work. On the ground floor, so it's easier for Ms. Gloria to move around. Do you think I would abandon her? We're still one family. Oh, Steve, you're such a wonderful person. Ms. Sarah exclaimed with admiration. Gloria is so lucky to have you. May God help us find Kate soon. God willing, Steve agreed. He lied so easily, so confidently, that there was no shadow of doubt in the old woman's mind about the monster standing before her. Soon, it was done. Steve sold the apartment, and he and Jessica moved to the capital. There, Steve bought a nice apartment. They even had enough money left for furniture. Yes, they had found a good realtor. Ms. Gloria's apartment was sold for a decent price. Steve's new life was beginning, with a managerial position and excellent prospects. His beloved woman was by his side. Kate spent a long time explaining herself at the police station in a small mountain village. Who she was and where she came from. Since she had no documents, it took a while. Eventually, the local police officer found a missing person report that matched her description. So, you're the one from the bus, he whistled. I've been telling you that for an hour, Kate nodded. And some family kept you captive in the mountains for a whole year? No one kept me captive. I just lay there for a long time. Then I recovered, but I lost my memory. Why didn't they report you to the police? Where do they live? Do you remember? I don't remember. They led me along some trails and put a bag over my head, Kate lied. Well, miracles, the officer chuckled. No, well, I'm telling the truth. Fine, I believe you, the officer agreed. We have all sorts of people here. It's good that you're alive. Who do you want to call? I don't remember the numbers. They were in my phone. Oh, wait, I do remember, the woman exclaimed. My mom's number, but it's long distance. Can't do anything about that. Give it a call, the officer replied despondently. But no one answered Kate's call. She didn't know that the apartment had already been sold, and renovations were underway. The officer, using his connections, informed her hometown about the woman who had been found. They confirmed that she had been missing all this time. Then came many formalities. They sorted out transportation issues. Finally, the officer put Kate on a train. Travel safely, my dear, and don't fly like that again, he joked before she left. I'll try, Kate replied, attempting to smile. But I'm worried. Why isn't my mom answering the phone? The journey home felt like an eternity. Kate couldn't shake off the anxious thoughts about Ms. Gloria. What if something happened to her during this time? She tried to think about something else, but it didn't always work. The train kept going and going. For most of the time, Kate lay on her bunk, facing the wall and covering herself with a sheet. She had grown unaccustomed to being around people after a year of isolation. The crowded train made her feel very uncomfortable. She reminisced about her life in the mountains. How was Dustin doing now? He was such a pitiful person, after all. And once again, her mind was consumed by another thought. What about her mother? Kate didn't want to think about Steve at all. She realized she didn't love him at all, and any resentment had faded away. When she returned, they would get a divorce. Let him live with his Jessica or whoever he wanted. It was his business. Finally, the train brought her back to her hometown. Stepping onto the platform, Kate even closed her eyes for a moment. It was bustling, with loud noises. She had grown so accustomed to being away from all of this, but now she had to readjust. The first thing she did was go to the police station. They explained to her that she had been declared missing. She would have to go through the process of restoring her documents, but everything could be resolved. Have your relatives been informed? The female investigator asked. We tried to reach your mother, but couldn't, and your husband is unreachable. I haven't called my husband. And my mother didn't answer me either. The home phone didn't pick up, and I forgot my mobile number, Kate answered with concern. Don't worry, the investigator reassured her. Maybe your mother just went to the store or somewhere else. Yes, I hope so. Well, go home then. Congratulations on your return. You could say you were born again. You fell into the abyss and survived. It's amazing. Yes, I'm in shock, Kate smiled. Although she forced a smile out of politeness, her heart felt heavy and restless. Finally leaving the police department, she headed towards her mother's place. Once again, she remembered Dustin. He had given her a small amount of money for the journey, which had been a great help. She was able to pay for the train ticket herself, and now she had something to get by on. And there she stood in front of the door to her childhood home, hesitant to press the doorbell. After all, her mother had a weak heart. How would she react to her sudden appearance? Finally, she mustered up the courage, and just as she was about to press the doorbell, the door opened. A tall man in work clothes looked at her with surprise. Kate caught a glimpse of the ongoing renovations inside the apartment, stripped wallpapers, plastered walls, and suspended ceilings. 2 more men were taking measurements. Who are you? Kate asked, surprised. I'm David, the man replied, equally surprised. We're doing renovations here. And who are you? I'm the daughter of the apartment owner. So, my mom started renovations? Where is she? I don't know anything about any mother, the worker shook his head. We were hired by Mr. Carter, the owner of this apartment. What Mr. Carter? Kate rushed. This is my mother's apartment. Ms., I don't know anything about that. We were hired to work here, and that's what we're doing. With that, the man closed the door in front of Kate's face. She was in shock. What happened? Where is my mother? And then the door of the apartment across the hall opened slightly, and Ms. Sarah peered out. Kate. Is it really you? The old lady exclaimed. You're alive. You've been found. I'm Miss Sarah. I came back as soon as I could, Kate rushed towards her neighbor. I can't understand anything. Please, tell me, where is my mother? Kate, I don't understand either. It's been 3 months since we've had any contact with Gloria. What happened to her? Yes, something strange is going on. But you come in, my dear. I'll tell you everything, and you can tell me everything. But the important thing is that you're alive. Everyone had lost hope, except Gloria. A mother's heart can't be deceived. Miss Sarah sighed and embraced Kate by the shoulders as they entered her apartment. Over a cup of tea, Miss Sarah revealed what Steve had told her. I was initially relieved that Gloria would be taken care of by good specialists. It just bothered me that Steve decided to sell the apartment, but he reassured me. He said that Ms. Gloria would be with me. However, since then, there has been no sight or sound from them. I've called Gloria so many times on her mobile, but it's always out of range. And I don't know Steve's phone number. I'm so worried. What if your mother, your dear mother, has passed away? It was so hard for her to recover from the stroke, but Steve should have said something, shouldn't he? You should ask him yourself. Haven't you seen him yet? Go straight to your mother? Oh, Kate, I sense something bad has happened to Gloria. The old lady wiped away her tears and continued. And some man bought your apartment. He drives an expensive car. He rarely comes here to check on the progress of the renovation. He doesn't greet anyone. Very secretive. I don't know who he is. He has a family. Miss Sarah kept talking, and Kate sat there, stunned. My mother had a stroke. Steve sold her apartment? How could he? Kate realized that a great tragedy had occurred. She needed to find her mother. But where? I'm sorry, Miss Sarah. I have to go. Thank you for the tea. Go to Steve. He surely knows, the neighbor nodded. Just let me know later. What's happened to Gloria? I will, definitely, Kate responded, already at the door. Kate didn't want to meet Steve, but she had no other choice. She went to the office. In the lobby, a security guard blocked her way. Kate didn't recognize him, he must have been new. Where are you going, ma'am? I need Steve. He works here as a programmer, and I used to work in the accounting department. You're probably new here. I've been here for 6 months, the guy nodded. I don't know you, and Steve doesn't work here anymore. What do you mean he doesn't work here? Yeah, that's right. He went to Washington. He's working at the head office now. I heard he got a promotion. Are you feeling okay, ma'am? Kate's legs gave out, and if it weren't for the security guard, she would have collapsed. He helped her sit down and went to get some water. While Kate tried to make sense of what was happening, the guard made a call. Soon, Samantha, Kate's colleague, appeared in the lobby. Kate, she exclaimed. You're alive? As you can see, Kate weakly smiled. Samantha, I can't understand what's going on. Oh, Alex. This woman is with me, Samantha said to the guard. So, this is Kate. Remember the story about one of our colleagues going on vacation and disappearing? Is this her? The guard raised his eyebrows in surprise. Yes, it's her. Let us through. We need to talk, Samantha insisted. Sure. Soon, Kate was sitting in her familiar accounting department. It was filled with people eager to see her, hear her story, and even touch her. They couldn't believe she was alive. The boss came in as well. Kate. I'm so glad. Mr. Bill smiled. Congratulations on your return. Thank you, Kate smiled wearily. She had so much interaction in one day that it became difficult for her to thank everyone. The boss looked at her understandingly and then gave a command. All right, everyone. Back to your workstations. Kate probably needs to have a private conversation with her friends. Mr. Bill understood exactly who Kate wanted to talk about, his niece and her husband. He felt somewhat guilty discussing the matter. He hadn't hindered Steve and Jessica being together, he even promoted him. When everyone had left the office, Samantha brewed some tea, and Brenda put a small tray of sweets on the table. Help yourself, Brenda smiled. Oh, Kate. We're so happy to see you. Girls, please tell me about Steve, Kate requested. Yeah, that bastard Steve, sighed Samantha. After you disappeared, he openly started dating that Jessica. Then she moved into your rented apartment. They were planning to get married. Steve was figuring out how long it would take for you to be declared dead. Maybe they already got married in Washington, added Brenda. He got promoted and became the head of the department. I heard they bought an apartment in Washington too. And what about my mom? Didn't he take her to Washington? Kate asked anxiously. Mom? Brenda and Samantha exchanged surprised glances. I don't know anything about your mom. But I don't think Jessica would agree to that. Why would she need your mom from Steve's previous marriage? Oh, Kate. Why are you asking? Brenda said with concern. I can't find my mom, Kate answered tearfully. Her apartment was sold, and her whereabouts are unknown. And the strangest thing is that Steve managed to sell the apartment. He sold the apartment? Could he have done it through a power of attorney, or did your mom gift him the apartment? But why? Samantha said, thinking, then added, Kate, I remember Jessica mentioned something to someone. That Steve had managed to pull off a very successful deal. At the time, I didn't understand what she meant. But now I'm thinking, could it be related to your mom's apartment? Kate, maybe you should go to the police, Brenda said softly. But don't overwhelm yourself with thoughts before you have all the information. Maybe nothing serious has happened. Yes, girls, I hope so, Kate replied absent-mindedly and got up from the table. I have to go. Just don't lose yourself now and come to work, Brenda embraced her, followed by Samantha. As soon as I sort out everything, I will. Thank you. It was great to see you. And we feel the same way. They hugged again. Then Brenda and Samantha walked Kate out of the office. Are you going to the police now? Samantha asked. First, I want to see Tiffany, my school friend. Maybe she knows something. Kate looked at her watch and realized it would be better to go to Tiffany's office and wait for her there. It was almost the end of the workday, and they could catch up if she left now. Kate had been sitting near the entrance for over an hour. Tiffany hadn't arrived yet. Where could she be? Kate was horrified. Where had all her loved ones disappeared to? Then a taxi pulled up by the entrance, and Tiffany stepped out. At first, she didn't notice Kate. Kate took the suitcases from the taxi driver, exchanged a few words with him, and then walked towards the entrance. That's when Tiffany saw her and froze. Kate, am I dreaming or is it really you? Tiffany barely whispered. But Kate ran towards her. The friends hugged, kissed, and then went up to the apartment together. So, tell me. Where have you been? With whom? And why were you silent for so long? Tiffany commanded, kicking off her shoes in the hallway. Tiffany, you'll find out everything as it is. But first, tell me, have you seen my mom recently? Kate pleaded. Well, it's been 3 months. I was on a business trip to London. Can you imagine? Kate, I had my doubts back then. Should I go? It felt uncomfortable leaving Ms. Gloria alone after her stroke, but she convinced me to go. She said she was feeling fine. She was still in the hospital at the time. I left, you know, it was a trip to England. Do you understand? I called Ms. Gloria several times afterwards, but her phone was silent. The hospital told me she had been discharged with good progress. However, Steve picked her up. That worried me. But I couldn't reach him either. I decided to figure it all out when I returned. And now here you are, Kate said with a mix of horror and confusion. Tiffany fell silent and looked at her friend questioningly. So, where is Ms. Gloria? Tiffany asked, hope and fear evident in her voice. I was hoping you knew, whispered Kate in terror. Steve bought an apartment in the capital. I assume it was with the money from my mom's apartment. Could he have sent her to the other side? Oh, don't overthink it. Tiffany turned pale. He's a scoundrel, of course. But he wouldn't stoop to that. He doesn't have the courage because he's a coward. Where should I look for her? I have no idea, Kate said, her voice trembling. Tomorrow, let's go to the police, and you can file a report, Tiffany suggested. Tiffany, I'm scared, Kate admitted timidly. Everything will be fine. You'll see. But for now, let's go grab a bite to eat at a cafe. I'm hungry after the trip, and the house is a mess. Even the fridge is unplugged. Tiffany, I'm so tired, Kate replied meekly. Maybe just tea and some rest. All right. You really need it. You rest, and I'll go to the store for groceries. When Tiffany returned from the store, Kate was already fast asleep on the couch in the living room. Tiffany smiled, covered her with a blanket, and wondered what had happened to her. She still didn't know. Well, that's okay. The important thing was that she was alive. The conversations would come in the morning. But where could they find Ms. Gloria? The next morning, Kate woke up to the aroma of delicious coffee. Tiffany was busy in the kitchen preparing breakfast. Good morning, my friend, Kate appeared in the doorway. Oh, my goodness, it's been ages since I've had coffee. We'll fix that now, Tiffany cheerfully responded. Come to the table. I made scrambled eggs and some sandwiches. It already tastes so good, Kate smiled, but her smile quickly faded. Tiffany, I really need to go to the police. We'll eat first. We'll talk, and then we'll go, Tiffany replied with an impatient tone, not accepting any objections. Finally, Kate told her friend the whole story. She could know everything. Incredible, Tiffany said after listening to it all. It's like a movie. And this Dustin, he never made any advances towards you? No, he was very tactful, Kate replied. Tactful? He kept a woman captive for a whole year. He should be brought to justice. No, Tiffany. He's a good person. And promise me that you won't tell anyone about him. He's just a very unhappy person with a broken fate. Well, okay, forget it. Thank you for letting you go. The friends sat at the table for a while longer, and then they started getting ready to go to the police. Tiffany picked out some items for Kate from her belongings and gave her some cosmetics. Tiffany. Kate timidly looked at her friend. I have no one else but you. Can I stay with you for a while? Until I figure everything out? She even has to ask. Tiffany chuckled. The living room is at your disposal for as long as you need. I'll give you a spare set of keys, and I'll give you some money for small expenses. We'll just have to find the nearest ATM. You don't have any cards, right? No, and no passport either. And no phone? Tiffany didn't wait for her friend's answer. She opened the nightstand and took out an old phone. For now, use this. Kate hugged her friend once again. Tiffany was truly wonderful. The police listened attentively to their story and promised to help. But for some reason, Kate felt even more melancholic after going to the police station. It seemed like they had brushed her off. After all, she didn't even write a formal statement. But less than an hour later, she received a phone call from the police. Your mother is in a nursing home, the officer said. A nursing home? Kate exclaimed. Is she alive? She's alive. Well, you know, after the stroke. The staff at the nursing home said she's bedridden and unable to care for herself. Well, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that she's alive. How do I get there? The officer explained the route in detail. Soon, Kate and Tiffany were trembling on an intercity bus. That place turned out to be a small village with only 3 streets. There were many abandoned houses and a broken road. Geese and ducks roamed the streets. Kate and Tiffany walked along a path from the bus stop, looking around. Can there really be a nursing home here? They asked an old man who was leading a goat on a rope. There's one here, he nodded in response. Go through that alley over there. You'll see a 2-story building. It's the only one we have. You can't miss it. It's right there. The women turned in the direction the old man pointed. Indeed, there was a building, but it looked dreary. Clearly, it hadn't been renovated in a long time. When the friends entered the nursing home, they felt uneasy. The place clearly lacked cleanliness. Dirt and dust were everywhere. Kate frowned when she saw a bucket near the entrance being used as an ashtray. "I need to see Ms. Gloria," she said to a middle-aged woman in a white robe and headscarf. The woman was a nurse. She furrowed her brow. "The bedridden one? And who are you?" "Her daughter." "Passport," the nurse sternly demanded. "I haven't restored my passport yet, but I have a certificate," Kate replied, reaching into her purse to retrieve the document. "I don't need your papers," the nurse declared. "This is a regulated facility. Without a passport, you can't enter. Leave the premises." "Listen," Tiffany protested. "We're searching for a person. We were given this address by the police. Do you want me to call the appropriate authorities right now and have an investigative team come here? You talk about this being a regulated facility? It looks more like a shed at best. Lead us to Ms. Gloria, or I promise you'll have problems." Tiffany was so convincing that the nurse hesitated for a moment. Eventually, she nodded and invited them to enter the 5th ward. "There she is," the nurse pointed to a bed near the window. At first, Kate couldn't tell if anyone was lying there or if it was just a pile of dirty rags. She approached and gasped. It was her mother. Ms. Gloria lay with her eyes closed, covered by a sheet. A bundle with dirty bed linen and a towel lay at the foot of the bed. Her mother had become so thin that it brought tears to Kate's eyes. She struggled to hold back her emotions. "Mom," she uttered from the edge of the bed. Her mother weakly opened her eyes and looked at her daughter for a few seconds. "Kate," she whispered slowly. "You came? Alive?" "My dear mother," Kate couldn't hold back anymore and burst into tears. "I'm alive. I've returned. I found you, Mom. I'll take you away from here today." "What's this all about?" the nurse interjected. "The superiors will be here only tomorrow. You'll have to discuss it with them." Kate pleaded with Tiffany, as she was her only hope. "Tiffany. We have to take her out of here. This is horrifying." "You're right. Come with me now, and we'll all leave together," Tiffany confidently replied. "Thank you." Kate looked at her friend, then at her mother, tears streaming down her face. How are we going to take Mom out of here?" Kate asked, her voice filled with concern. "Listen," the nurse exclaimed. "Are you deaf? I told you I won't give her to you right now. Listen to me." Tiffany glared at the nurse menacingly. "I saw this woman after her stroke in the hospital. She looked much better back then. She could speak normally. Slowly, but quite reasonably. And now, she can barely move her tongue. You've brought her to this state. We will take legal action against you. And right now, I'll call the police and report that you're forcibly detaining a person here. Adequate medical care isn't provided, and her life is at risk." The nurse left to make a call, and as promised, Tiffany called the police and an ambulance. While they resolved all the issues, Kate sat with her mother, telling her how she managed to escape. The other women in the ward listened attentively. "What a story. Can it really happen in real life?" one of the women remarked. Soon, a tall man rushed in. He introduced himself as the head of the facility and demanded that Tiffany and Kate leave. However, the police and ambulance arrived, and he quieted down a bit. The medical staff examined Ms. Gloria and were appalled. She had bed sores all over her body. It was clear that nobody had taken proper care of her here. They urgently took her to the hospital, and the police drove Kate and Tiffany to the district center, where they boarded the last bus to the city. "Do you think they will punish this house of mercy?" Kate asked her friend. "I hope there will be some investigation because elderly people shouldn't be kept in such conditions," Tiffany thoughtfully replied. "I will call this place regularly. I took the phone number of the administration from one of the officers, just in case. But Kate, there's something else that upsets me in this story. Steve sent Ms. Gloria to that hellhole, knowing what awaited her there. He was waiting for her death," Kate responded with a muffled voice. "Mom told me." Incoherently, but I understood. It turns out she was afraid that after her death, my cousin would claim the apartment. I was missing without a trace. And so, to prevent any future problems for me, she wrote a gift deed in Steve's name. She thought we were a family. We'll deal with this issue ourselves later. Yes, she believed in her son-in-law so much. And she believed that you were alive, Tiffany said. Perhaps she was the only one who believed. Kate, please forgive me. I believed that you were dead. Blamed myself for that trip. Don't blame yourself, Tiffany. Who could have known this would happen? And the fact that I survived. It truly is a miracle. But there's something else I want to ask you. You said we'll bring Mom to your place. Yes. Tiffany, did you mean it? How else? Where will you and Ms. Gloria live? Tiffany asked. At my place, of course, Kate. We'll bring her here as soon as she's treated. We just need to figure out the transportation and buy a special bed, as well as some necessary items. Will you have enough space in the living room for both of us? Absolutely, Kate. I'll reimburse you for all the expenses as soon as I start working. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. It's not like you would have done anything differently if our roles were reversed. You're my friend, Tiffany said, embracing Kate. They continued on their way, closer than ever, almost like sisters. 2 weeks later, Ms. Gloria was discharged from the district hospital. Tiffany arranged for specialized transportation, and soon they brought her to her renovated apartment, where everything was ready for her to live a normal life. There would still be a long period of recovery ahead, but the doctors assured them that with good care, the bed sores would heal. And overall, Ms. Gloria had hope for improvement. With proper attention, she might regain her ability to stand. Taking care of a sick person is a demanding job that requires round-the-clock dedication. Kate understood that all of this cost a significant amount of money. Massages, medications, and hygiene products were all expensive. It felt shameful to rely solely on her friend's support. Besides, Tiffany didn't earn millions either. But Kate couldn't go back to working in an office. Who would take care of her mother then? Hiring a professional caregiver was also costly. That's when Kate decided to try finding remote work. To her surprise, she quickly found a job in her field, and the salary promised to be almost twice as much as in an office job. Kate began managing accounting tasks for 2 organizations simultaneously. She had to work nights and snatch moments during the day. The rest of her time was dedicated to taking care of her mother. After a few months, Ms. Gloria could already hold a spoon on her own, sit up a bit, and her speech returned to normal. "My dear daughter," she said to Kate one night before bed, "forgive me, an old fool. I didn't see through your husband. I thought he loved you, but he played such a trick. He spoke ill of you, saying that you were unfaithful. And him. What a scoundrel. He led me to transfer the apartment to his name. I believed him. I will never forgive myself. I was left with nothing, and now you are homeless. Don't worry, Mom. Everything will be fine, and Steve will be held accountable for everything," Kate assured her. "But how? Do you think we can get the apartment back?" "Getting the apartment back is unlikely. But I think we can go after the money Steve received from its sale. It won't be easy, though. It wasn't a will, but a gift deed." I've been so foolish. I thought it would be easier for you that way. I only made things worse. I'm telling you, don't worry. We will fix everything, Mom. The important thing is that we're both alive. You're getting better, and who knows, maybe you'll be able to stand on your own feet again. Oh, God, I hope so. Good night, my daughter. I love you so much. And I love you, my dear mother. Kate told her mother the truth. She had already been researching how to hold Steve accountable. No, it would be difficult to punish him for sending Ms. Gloria to the nursing home. After all, the nursing home operated legally, and he could easily defend himself by claiming ignorance of the conditions inside. It was the responsibility of the relevant authorities to ensure proper care. He wasn't obligated to visit Ms. Gloria, he was just her former son-in-law. However, challenging the gift deed and the money Steve received as a result was a possibility. Kate was currently looking for a good lawyer and found one a few days later, quite by chance. She went to the office she collaborated with remotely to clarify some matters and bumped into a young man at the door. He literally collided with her, causing her papers to fly out of her hands. Apologizing, he immediately began helping her pick up the scattered sheets. In the process, they struck up a conversation and got acquainted. The man's name was Kevin. "If you ever need the help of a lawyer, I'd be happy to take on your case," he said, gathering the last sheet and handing it to Kate. "Are you a lawyer?" Kate looked at him with interest. "Yes, and quite a successful one. Although, I advise you not to engage in any wrongdoing, as I specialize in civil law. I handle property disputes, inheritance matters, and similar cases," Kevin smiled. "But if needed, I can find you a competent colleague for criminal cases." "Actually, I need to resolve a property dispute regarding an apartment," Kate replied. "Can I have your business card?" Kevin promptly handed her his card. That evening, Kate carefully researched all the information about him on the internet. If the World Wide Web could be trusted, he was indeed a good lawyer, and Kate decided to call him the next day. They met at Kevin's office, where he listened to Kate's story. "Not an easy case," he said after giving it some thought. "But I'll take it on. I believe we can succeed. I just need some time to prepare. However, I have a question. Have you tried contacting your husband? Perhaps he would willingly return the money for the apartment?" "I can't see him," Kate admitted. "And I don't think he would give me anything back." "Well, it's still worth a try. Maybe we can resolve this without going to court." But it didn't work out without going to court. They ran into each other by chance. Kate and Ms. Gloria were at the polyclinic and decided to stop by the supermarket afterwards. From there, they planned to call a taxi. Kate pushed the wheelchair with her mother in front of her. They were talking about something when Ms. Gloria froze in mid-sentence. "Mom, are you feeling unwell?" Kate grew concerned. She leaned towards her mother and followed her gaze. Ms. Gloria was looking ahead at a couple walking towards them. It was Steve and Jessica. They were holding hands, laughing, and talking. Both looked absolutely happy. They had just arrived in their hometown. Steve had some work matters to attend to, and Jessica tagged along. And only now did they find out that Kate was alive. Mr. Bill, Jessica's uncle, had informed them. What a turn of events. At first, Steve was taken aback and even frightened. But then he thought about it and made a decision. Well, this could work out well. Now he could easily get a divorce from Kate without any complications. "Steve. She will claim the apartment, won't she?" Jessica reminded him in horror. "Well, let her," he casually waved his hand. "The old woman personally gifted me the apartment. In that case, I can dispose of it as I wish, and it doesn't count as joint property. So, the money from the sale of the apartment is mine." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely, darling. Relax. That chicken won't achieve anything. Even if she takes it to court." "What about that old lady?" "I don't know, maybe she's already dead." "Well, it's none of my business. She's a stranger to me now." They had a conversation and calmed down. And now, as they walked down the street, they were making plans to buy a new car in the near future. They would go on vacation, and perhaps even a honeymoon trip. It was time to legalize their relationship. And then they also saw Kate with Ms. Gloria. They paused for a moment, then took a step forward, intending to walk past them. "Hello, Steve," Kate said and walked towards him, blocking their path and shielding Ms. Gloria. "What a surprise. Aren't you glad? Thought you could bury me in the past?" "Well, I'm alive and well, as you can see." "Well, congratulations on the miraculous return," Steve muttered. "Thank you, and my mother is alive too." although you sent her to a real hell. Steve, how could you? She trusted you so much. Kate, leave me alone, Steve replied irritably. You should be happy that you're alive, and I have my own life and my own family. By the way, taking advantage of the opportunity, let's file for divorce today. Our marriage has been just on paper for a long time, and I have a new life now. A new life, Kate repeated with a smirk. In a new apartment? Yes, in a new one, and it's mine. And whose money did you buy it with? Care to enlighten me? I earned it, Steve brazenly replied. And what about the money from the sale of my mother's apartment? Where are they? Kate asked. They are in a safe place. Then return them. They essentially belong to my mother. What are you talking about? Steve laughed. She gave them to me as a gift. The apartment was mine. Isn't that right, Ms. Gloria? He laughed, looking over Kate's shoulder and bowed towards the frail woman sitting in the wheelchair. Ms. Gloria was pale as chalk, her hands trembling. She couldn't utter a word. Seeing what was happening to her mother, Kate quickly returned to the wheelchair. Forget about it, she shouted after the departing couple. We'll meet in court. Steve laughed. If you're willing to spend money on a lawyer, go ahead. But you'll still lose. And they went their separate ways. Their laughter lingered in Kate's ears for a long time. Don't worry, Mom. He will get what he deserves, Kate said. He will be held accountable for everything, for his infidelity, for deceiving you, and for his despicable behavior now. Darling, maybe it's better to let it go? You'll just waste your nerves. And they might call me to court too. I don't want that, her mother replied. He'll say everything right, Kate reassured her mother. I'm more than confident about that. On the same day, she called Kevin and told him about her conversation with her husband. Well, what can I say? It's war, the lawyer replied. We'll fight. Kevin began his work. He prepared diligently for the case and brilliantly defended the rights of Kate and her mother in court. Steve had also found a formidable lawyer who had no intention of backing down. Steve was confident that he could leave his ex-wife without her mother's apartment. And Ms. Gloria too. You have to teach fools, he thought to himself, winking at Jessica, who sat in the courtroom, fully convinced that the court would be on their side. Everything is according to the law. But Kevin managed to convince the judge that Steve took advantage of Kate's absence and her mother's illness. He gained their trust and deceitfully obtained the gift document. Additionally, the judge was deeply impressed by where Steve had sent Ms. Gloria. And did you never wonder how Ms. Gloria was living? The judge asked Steve. No. Why? I called the staff, Steve replied. They said everything was fine. And I couldn't come myself. I had work. Didn't it occur to you that if your wife turned out to be alive, where would she live upon her return? After you sold her mother's apartment without leaving her any chance, the judge asked again. But how would I know? I thought she couldn't survive that accident. I actually think she's hiding something in this case. Maybe she wasn't even on that bus? Steve said, lowering his gaze. Anyway, she's standing in front of you now. That may be, but I have had another woman for a long time, and we love each other, Steve replied defiantly, ignoring his lawyer's unease. So, you were seeing someone else before the accident? The judge asked. Yes, and so what? Steve arrogantly raised his head. Kate and I were heading for a divorce anyway. Nevertheless, according to Kate, she found out about your relationship by chance. It just happened. Did Ms. Gloria know that you were seeing someone else and you were deceiving her daughter? Oh, come on. What difference does it make? In any case, she signed everything herself. And she wasn't that sick or incapable of understanding. Her mind was sharp. And her daughter won't be left with nothing. Well, she found a place to live now, didn't she? And she'll manage from here on. Steve became increasingly agitated. And there's no money left. I bought an apartment in Washington, and it's mine. I won't give it to anyone. I understand everything now. The judge replied curtly and left to deliver the verdict, which was fair. The gift document was declared invalid, and Steve was ordered to return all the money to Ms. Gloria. In addition, the claim for moral damages was granted. A month later, another court hearing took place regarding the divorce. Kevin once again defended Kate, and this time she demanded the division of their shared property. Steve was furious. Not only did he have to sell the apartment and return all the money to Ms. Gloria, but now Kate wanted to divide the car and the savings in the bank. I earned that myself, Steve shouted in court. We were no longer living together. Yes, we weren't living together. But we had a car before that Steve sold, Kate responded to the judge. And then he bought another one. I took a loan from the bank for the first car, and the savings were in our joint account. After my disappearance, the money went into that account. Steve was even taken aback when he heard this. Indeed, he hadn't changed the account. He missed that detail. But I had no intention of living with her, he yelled at the judge. Nevertheless, you didn't change anything legally, the judge pointed out. Steve felt defeated. As a result, they were divorced. Kate received half of her husband's property, and the claim for moral compensation was granted. The judge deemed it fair to demand money from Steve for his infidelity. After all, if it hadn't been for the infidelity, Kate wouldn't have gone on vacation to calm down and wouldn't have been involved in the accident. This claim equaled the remaining amount Steve had after the division of property. After the court hearing, Jessica, who was present, quickly left like a cork. Steve ran after her. Jessica, wait, he shouted. We will definitely appeal everything. Oh, come on. Get lost, she replied. What are you going to appeal? Can't you see who her lawyer is? You were just bragging. I can handle anything. She won't get anything. She already got everything and more, and you're left with nothing. But I'll earn something eventually. What will you earn? And when? Do you think I need a pauper? You won't even be able to pay for lunch in a restaurant now. And by the way, about your job. You'll be fired tomorrow. I'll call Uncle and ask him to do it. Jessica. I don't understand. Why? We love each other. Love? I loved a successful, confident man. And you? You're a weakling. Your wife stripped you like a leech. And all you did in court was stammer. Go to hell. She got into the car and drove away. Steve stood bewildered, watching the car drive off. Then he turned towards the courthouse and saw Kate and Kevin observing the whole scene from a distance. Satisfied? Steve yelled at Kate. You got what you wanted? Kate simply nodded in response. Then she got into the car with Kevin, and they drove away. 3 years passed. Much had changed since then. Kate bought an apartment for Ms. Gloria, where the elderly woman now lived peacefully. Ms. Gloria managed to recover from her illness. She can now walk on her own and speak normally. In her new home, she made friends among her neighbors, but she maintained contact with Ms. Sarah mostly over the phone. She didn't want to visit her former neighbor. She couldn't bear to see the old apartment. It hurt too much to realize that the past couldn't be restored. Although the present was also pleasing. After all, her daughter was doing well. Kate's life was truly excellent now, but it didn't happen overnight. There were still worries, shocks, and emotional struggles. 3 years ago, after the trial, she had mixed feelings. She had seemingly punished her abuser. His mistress had left him. Everyone received what they deserved, and that brought her some satisfaction. But at the same time, she felt a bit sorry for Steve. He truly became a pitiful, lost soul. Just as Jessica promised, he was fired from his job. He returned from the capital, rented a small place, and tried to find work in several companies, but no one would hire him. They had all heard about his apartment scheme and how he treated his wife and her mother. No reputable organization wanted to employ an unethical person. He started making a living by repairing computers at home. Gradually, he developed a fondness for alcohol. One day, Kate encountered him on the street and didn't even recognize him at first. He had lost weight, was unshaven, and dressed in dirty clothes. Almost like a homeless person. Steve also noticed Kate. They stood there for a few minutes. Then Kate took the first step. "Hello," she said. "How are you doing?" "Can't you see?" he smirked. "Thanks to you, I'll soon be completely ruined." "It's your own fault," Kate replied. "You destroyed yourself. Lost everything, including the woman you loved." "The woman I loved? Did she love me? Was she there with me when she saw potential in me? When I started earning money? But as soon as I lost everything, she ran away. I wouldn't have done that." "Steve. Is that so?" "It can't be. I have a different life now. So what do you want from me? Standing there, reveling in your triumph? It's cruel." "No, Steve. It's not about triumph. I want to help you." "Are you mocking me? You? After everything?" "Yes, after everything. Listen, there's the village, and there's a house of mercy there." "Yes, the same one where you sent my mother." "After our visit, there were major changes. The management and staff were replaced, and the building was renovated. I know all this because of Tiffany. My friend, as you remember, she's keeping an eye on that place. She calls the district administration the hospital. It's just that at the time, we were all too shocked by what we saw there, but now everything is fine. There's just one problem. They don't have anyone to set up their computer equipment." "In the House of Mercy?" Steve chuckled. "Yes. They also need help with paperwork. So here's what I'm thinking. Would you like to go there? I think you'll find accommodation easily. There are many abandoned houses in the area. Will they accept me?" "They will. If Tiffany asks." Steve pondered. He wanted to curse his ex-wife. What an arrogant woman she was. But then he remembered that next month he wouldn't have the money to pay the rent for his apartment. "I agree." "Great. Just don't drink too much in the new place." "They have strict rules now," Kate replied. "I'll call you once Tiffany arranges everything. I'll give you the exact address. Can you dictate your phone number?" Steve obediently shared his phone number, and Kate wrote it down in her notebook. She was about to leave when she paused. "I also want to tell you something. I will return the money from your account. I don't need it. I just wanted to show you what happens to a person who betrays others." "So you taught me a lesson," Steve smirked. "Yes, I did. There wasn't much money anyway. I'll return it, but don't expect any moral compensation. I won't give it back." "I agree. Where should I transfer the money? What's the account number?" "I don't remember." "All right. Let me know when I call. Just don't spend it all at once and leave. Trust me. It'll be better that way." And she left. They didn't see each other anymore. Later, she called him. She wrote down the account number and told him where to go. Steve dryly thanked her. Kate transferred the money. That was the end of their communication. Later, Kate found out that he was working at the nursing home, maintaining computers, and also working part-time as a nurse. He was given an abandoned house, which he was able to fix up and live in. He got involved with a woman who had 5 children. Just an ordinary woman who worked on a farm. Meanwhile, Kate's personal life took a sharp turn for the better after the divorce. She and Kevin remained friends for some time. They called each other occasionally and exchanged messages. One day, he showed up with a bouquet of flowers and invited her on a date. That evening, Kate was in the kitchen with her mother, baking pies. She came out to Kevin in an apron, her hands covered in flour, looking bewildered. She wiped her hands on the apron, but her cheeks inexplicably flushed. And Kevin stood there proudly with the bouquet. "Couldn't you at least have warned me that you were coming?" Kate said, slightly reproachful. "I thought that surprise would be the best approach in our case. After all, Kate, aren't we like little kids? We like each other." Kate didn't have a chance to reply as Miss Gloria appeared in the hallway from the kitchen. "Oh, Kevin." "Hello," she beamed with a smile. "Why are you standing at the door?" "Kate, why are you keeping the guest on the doorstep? Invite him to the table. Everything is ready." "Indeed, how about some pies to start?" Kate smiled. "I have great respect for pies," Kevin chuckled. "What kind are they?" "With meat, cabbage, and mushrooms," she replied. "Oh, mushrooms are my weakness." Then the three of them sat at the kitchen table, drinking tea and eating pies. A vase of roses stood nearby on the sideboard. Ms. Gloria tactfully left soon after. "Well, I managed to chase away Mom," Kevin smiled apologetically. "No, she just doesn't want to disturb us," Kate replied. "She thinks we're already in a romance." "And what do you think?" Kate smiled thoughtfully. After all the events she had been through, she didn't want any new feelings. But why was her heart pounding, and why wouldn't the blush fade from her face? "So, maybe we should take a walk after all," she suggested. And he happily nodded in response. From then on, Kevin started appearing more and more often at their apartment, and Kate couldn't resist. They had been seeing each other for several months. Sometimes Kate would spend the night at his place. One morning, she felt unwell. She didn't pay much attention to it. But then it happened again. And only then did a suspicion dawn on Kate. Could it be? No. It can't be. After all, she had been unable to get pregnant for so many years, but the test said otherwise. And then the doctor at her appointment at the women's clinic confirmed it. The pregnancy was 5 or 6 weeks. Kate flew out of the clinic like on wings. She's going to be a mom. God, what a miracle it is. Everything is coming true in her life. She called Kevin. "Honey. I'm going to lunch now." "Where are you?" "I can pick you up," Kevin said first. "I'm at the clinic," Kate answered cheerfully. "Are you sick?" Kevin's voice became serious. "What happened?" "Something happened, darling." "Yes, something like that." "Kevin. You're going to be a daddy." Kevin was silent for a second. Then he said dryly that he'd be right there. Kate was waiting for him happily at the bus stop when he stopped abruptly. "Get in," he said briefly, without looking at Kate. The smile slid off the woman's face. "Kevin, what's wrong with you? Something at work?" "At work everything is fine. I just didn't expect this from you." "Didn't expect what?" Kate looked at her lover confused. "I'm talking about your pregnancy." "So, you don't want a baby?" Kate turned pale. "You could have said so right away. That we're not serious." "Kate, we are serious. I love you and I want you to be my wife. But I didn't know how to tell you." "Kate, I can't have children. I was married right after college. For 2 years we tried to have a child, and then the doctor said I was infertile." Kevin said it. He looked into Kate's eyes. "Now tell me. Why were you with me? If you were sleeping with someone else?" "I had no one but you." Kate was so confused that she didn't even understand how to prove to her lover that she was faithful to him. "You do not even look in my eyes," he grinned. "Kevin." "Yes, I'm just in shock. This cannot be. You are not infertile." "Kevin. I couldn't have a baby for a long time either. Steve and I couldn't make it work. The doctors were just throwing up their hands. I love only you and this is your child." "I don't believe you," Kevin answered and turned the ignition key. "Where should I take you? To Mom or to that other one?" Make him happy. These words finally finished Kate. She decided not to prove or justify herself anymore. Take to Mom, she answered quietly. At the house she got out of the car. Goodbye, said Kate. Goodbye, Kevin replied. And then he went to the bar and got drunk. He had never felt so bad before. For the first time in his life, he met the one he considered the best woman in the world. And she turned out to be cheap. He even testified in court that she was a saintly woman who had been cruelly mistreated. But she turned out to be no better than her husband. Kevin took out his phone to delete Kate's number when suddenly it rang. It was his mother calling. Ms. Andrea lived in the capital. She worked as a therapist in a polyclinic. She had recently visited her son and had gotten to know Kate. They had even become friends. And now she was calling. Son. Where are you? She demanded. I am nowhere, Kevin mumbled. Well, Kevin. I know everything. I just called Kate, and she told me everything. Poor girl is sobbing. She doesn't know what she did wrong. She doesn't know? Kevin smirked. That's what she said? She knows everything. Mom, Kate is very bad. Don't call her anymore. Kate is very good, and you're a fool. Listen to me. Everything is fine with your reproductive system. Do you understand me? Mom, I understand, but you're a therapist. And the specialists at the family planning clinic told me something completely different. Your specialists told you what I asked them to say. And they gave you the conclusion you needed. Kevin sobered up in an instant upon hearing this. Mom. Why did you do this? He asked quietly. I never liked your Pamela. I always felt there was something rotten about her. I just couldn't figure out what was wrong. And then I accidentally found out from a colleague that she visited you. That's when my colleague told me that my daughter-in-law was going to her for consultations. She's infertile herself, but was afraid to tell her husband. In other words, afraid to tell you. Do you understand? I understand. And you really want a child. So, she begged the doctor to do everything necessary to fertilize a donor egg and implant it in her. It didn't matter if your biological material was used or not. The main thing was that you didn't know about it. When the doctor asked why Pamela wanted to deceive her husband, she confessed that she couldn't afford to lose such a promising guy. A lawyer, an advocate, with a brilliant future. Do you understand? She wasn't talking about love, but about money. That's when I asked them to give you false test results. I didn't want her to deceive you. Yes, I know that later she tried to convince you about donors, but you refused. Because you considered it wrong. Yes, that's true. We broke up afterwards. I told her that maybe she would find a healthy man and be happy while I would live alone. Pamela cried and then left. And she left because I threatened to expose her 10 abortions. Mom. How can you say such things? Yes, my dear. It turns out your ex-wife led a very promiscuous lifestyle and regularly had abortions before she wanted to become a mother. I couldn't allow such a woman to be with you. Mom. Why didn't you say anything earlier? Pamela lives in another city. She's already married. I wouldn't consider taking her back. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I'm sorry, my son. I deceived you, but it was a lie to protect you. Now, please. Call a taxi and go home. And tomorrow, go to Kate and apologize. I can see that she loves you. She's the real deal. You'll be happy with her. After talking to his mother, Kevin sat silently for a while, realizing what he had heard. This is what Mom did, he thought. He did love Pamela, but that was all in the past. Now, Kate was the only one on his mind. How he had hurt her. Staggering, he left the bar and headed towards a taxi. He got in, shook his head. He wasn't as drunk as he thought. Why should he wait until tomorrow? He would go to Kate now. Meanwhile, Kate was sitting in the kitchen, having a difficult conversation with Ms. Gloria. "Daughter. Maybe everything will work out. Ms. Andrea promised to help, after all. I doubt she can do anything about it. He doesn't believe me, and it doesn't matter. I even think he made up his infertility just to leave, so let him go. I'll still have this child. And that's right, Kate. A child is the most important thing in a woman's life. We'll raise it together." They kept talking and talking when someone rang the doorbell. Who could it be so late? Ms. Gloria wondered. It's already 1:30 in the morning. Kate opened the door. Kevin took a step towards her, swaying. "Why did you come? Hadn't you said enough nasty things? And now you're drunk too." "Kate, please forgive me. I'm a fool. A complete fool. I don't want to wait. I want to say it now. Kate, marry me. I know it's my child. I was deceived myself before. That's why I behaved like an animal. I'll change." "Fine. We'll talk about it in the morning. Come in and go to bed." Kevin obediently walked into the room, and in the morning, there were many explanations and confessions. Ms. Gloria patiently sat in the kitchen and waited. And then they came out and announced that they were going to the registry office to file their marriage application. "Well, finally," sighed the mother. "That's wonderful." The wedding took place a month later. It was joyful and lively. The bride and groom were the happiest. They managed to find each other in this world. They went through trials, understood each other, and forgave everyone for the sake of their future happiness. Gloria and Ms. Andrea sat together at the wedding, whispering to each other. "Gloria. Our children are the most beautiful." Of course, they are our children. Both women were filled with pride, and tears of happiness glistened in their eyes. At the appointed time, Kate gave birth to a baby boy. Kevin, Gloria, Andrea, and Tiffany were waiting for her outside the maternity ward. Kevin took the baby in his arms and gently unfolded the lace blanket, looking at the little face. "He looks like me," he proudly exclaimed. "And who else would he look like?" Kate laughed. "You're my dear." And they kissed tenderly. In the car, a discussion arose between the young parents. "Kate. What kind of name is that for a boy?" "Dustin? A beautiful name. Dustin. Doesn't it sound beautiful?" "Darling, why are you against it?" "I'm not against it. I actually like it, but it just reminds me of that Dustin who found you in the mountains." "Is it in his honor?" "Why? Are you jealous?" Kate smiled. "No need. Although, maybe you're right. It's partly in his honor. After all, if he hadn't found me, we wouldn't have left the maternity ward now, carrying our little miracle. So, it's named after Dustin after all?" Kevin chuckled. "Well, okay, then. But it's a great name." Their little champion softly snuggled in his mother's arms, making tiny noises. Kate fell into deep thought and looked out the window. Behind the car, a fluffy white cloud seemed to be tethered in the sky. Kate squinted, and for a moment, it appeared to her as the peak of a massive snow-covered mountain. She reminisced for a moment about the year she spent in the mountains. It felt as if it hadn't happened to her. In fact, everything that had happened in her life before seemed distant, and her true story was only just beginning.